let's look at a word problem that involves percent. So for how many years must $2,000 be invested at a 5.4% annual interest rate to earn $162? So here's a formula we use to solve this type of problem. I equals PRT. So I means interest, which is a dollar amount. So usually when we invest money, we earn interest. So it's how much money, like how many dollars we earn. And P represents the principal, which is the money we invest, you save it at the bank, or the money we borrow from the bank. R represents interest rate, but the focus is the word rate. So in order to distinguish between interest and interest rate, so we take the first letter of rate. And again, the rate is always a percentage. And T represents time. So now we just need to plug all the numbers into the formula. So again, the interest, I is the interest, which is dollar amount. Don't confuse this with the letter R. R is the interest rate, which is a percentage. And so the interest, how much money we earn or how much money we have to pay to the bank, depends on the principal, which is the total money we invest or borrow, times the rate. We know the higher the rate is, the more money we have to pay, so times the rate, and times the time, because the longer we borrow money, the more interest we have to pay. Or the longer you invest, you keep your money at the bank, then the more money you will earn. So it makes sense that interest equals the money we borrow or invest times how high the rate is times how long the time we keep the money at the bank, or we borrow the money from the bank. Okay, so let's plug in all the numbers. Now, the $2,000 it says to be invested, so that's our principal. And 5%, the percentage is always the rate. And to earn $162. So when you lend money to the bank, the bank has to pay you interest. So this is the dollar amount, which is the interest. That's the letter R. So again, make sure you don't mix the rate and the interest rate and interest. So let's plug in the numbers. For I, we have 162, and P, that's 2,000, and R, that is 5.4%. The only thing that's not given is T, how many years, which is the unknown. We're going to have to leave it there and solve for this T here. So after we plug in all the numbers I, P, and R, and T, we get this equation. So now we're going to solve for T. First of all, when we have a percent in the problem, we have to convert that to either fraction or decimal. So we're going to convert to a decimal, and in previous video, we already talked about how to convert a percent to a decimal, because the symbol right here means divide by 100. Whenever we divide a number by 100, we move the decimal point 2 times to the left. So we're going to move it from here one time and then one more time. So it's going to be 0.054. And now in order to get T by itself, and we try to simplify as much as possible, so since these two numbers can be multiplied, so recall the rule for multiplying decimals. So we ignore the decimal points, so we're going to multiply 2,054. I'm going to put a 54 up there, and after we multiply them, we're going to get 2 times 4, that's 8, 2 times 5, that's 10. So now we have 3 decimal places. We're going to put it in the answer. So that gives us 108 for the multiplication. Now all we have to do is to get rid of 108, and remember this is times 108 or 108 times, so we're going to divide both sides by 108. And now we have, so divide the left hand side by 108, divide the right hand side by 108. They cancel, so we have T by itself. the left hand side. So we can either reduce this, or we can do 162 divided by 108, do long division, and 108 goes into 162 one time, and we do subtraction. Now 2 minus 8, that's not enough, so we're going to borrow from 6. So that reduces 6 down to 5, increases 2 up to 12. Now 12 subtract 8 minus 8, we get 4. 5 minus 0 is 5, and 1 minus 1 is 0. And now we can add, since the remainder is not 0, so let's add 1 decimal point and 0, and move the decimal point up and put in the answer. And move 0 down. So we bring down 0. 108 goes into 540 exactly 5 times, because 5 times 8 is 40, and 1 times 5 is 5. So that gives us the answer 1.5. Which means it would take us 1.5 years, 1.5 years, which means 1.5 years to receive $162 as interest.